In this video, we're going to talk about how to see the world and its opportunities beyond the five senses that you think that you're limited to. So stick with me and stay tuned. Hi, Robert Scheinfeld, New York Times best-selling author and creator of The Ultimate Freedom Experience, and we're here talking about how to see the world and its opportunities beyond the five senses that you think that you're limited to. So we all have five senses, right? Sight, smell, hearing, taste, and touch. We don't really think about this in our day-to-day life, but the truth is each of the five senses is a sensor, and it is designed to pick up very specific types of information. And what happens every day, we don't do any of this, we're not aware of any of it consciously, but what happens every day is these sensors collect information, and then that information is sent to the brain in the form of electrical signals. And the brain takes all of these electrical signals that the sensors pick up, the different forms of information, and assembles it all together. And it's very much like assembling a jigsaw puzzle. And then the brain makes up a story about what's going on and the physical world that it is that we are experiencing. Now, I have to tell you, this is not some idea or concept or theory or philosophy, and it's not some spiritual or metaphysical or woo-woo thing. This is hard-nosed science, that this is what's actually going on. And so we think that there's a physical world out here, and things are solid, and that we all are experiencing the same world, If you're sitting in the same room with somebody else, if you're driving in a car with somebody else, you're in a restaurant with somebody else, we're all seeing this same physical, tangible, single world, physical universe that's there. But it just isn't true. The truth is, what's really going on is electrical signals that are assembled like a jigsaw puzzle by the brain and the stories that the brain makes up. And the brain research that's being done on this is really quite fascinating today. But what's going on in the brain, there's no hands, and there's no shirts, and there's no ceiling, and there's no shoes or feet, and there's no sun or any of that. There's just electrical signals. It all is really an extraordinary illusion. Now, you may have heard this, you may have studied it before, but this whole physical universe, the whole physical world, and us and everything in it, is really just an absolutely extraordinary illusion. The fact that it's an illusion, which you may have heard before, you may have studied before, maybe you saw it in a movie or something, whatever, that's not the most important part. But that's undeniable, that's a fact. Again, it's not a theory or a philosophy or an idea. It's a documented scientific fact that what we think is the physical world, the physical universe, is an illusion. Cleverly crafted one, but it's an illusion. What's important is there's a hidden story behind and underneath that illusion, and it gets to the point, why? Why would there be this universe? Why would there be these senses? Why would there be these electrical signals? Why would there be this brain that assembles them all and creates this illusion of this physical universe so that we can have these human experiences? There's a hidden story that you've never been told about why all of this happens and how it all works. And the thing that I discovered that shocked me is that when you really discover the truth of what's going on at the deepest level in terms of how reality really gets created, what's really happening every day, the possibilities that are there when you really understand what's going on, when you take that kind of a journey into truth with a capital T, as I call it, extraordinary possibilities for change and transformation and new experiences and new adventures become possible. This is so hard to wrap your mind around. This is so hard to understand if you try to think about it. Because, the world seems so real, and everything seems physical, and it seems stable, and it seems it's not an illusion, it seems real. And so we can understand these things, we can read about it in books, we can get an A on a test, is the world an illusion, yes or no, all these kinds of things. But it still seems so real, and it's meant to. That's part of the hidden story. It's meant to seem real. It's very similar to special effects in movies. You go to movies these days, and most of it's created on computers, and it's all illusion, and it's all made up, but it's made to seem real so that we can enjoy the story of the movie, and it's the same thing. What I discovered on the very unique journey that I've taken on my life is that so many of the problems that we have and the things that I struggled with most, the things that were most painful, that were most difficult, that were most frustrating, that caused me the greatest stress, all of these things can be resolved if you just go deeply enough into the truth with a capital T of what's really going on. So here's the really interesting thing. When you get down to the deepest level of what's really going on and what really creates the experiences that we have every day, what you realize is there are two parts to who you really are. There's this part, the human part, the personality part, who you think of as you, the physical part. And then there's another part to all of us. There's an intelligence with a capital I. I call it true creative essence. And it's the more spiritual, the more truthful with a capital T, the bigger, whatever words don't serve, part of us. And the interesting thing is, this other part of us that I call true creative essence is the one that creates the electrical signals, is the one that creates the senses that pick them up, that determines what's going to happen with those senses. Because there are people who are blind, right? And they don't get any information from the eyes, from the visual sensors. There are people who are deaf, and they don't get any information from the ears, from those senses, and their experience is completely different. And it's this intelligence that we really are that shapes and determines all of this. How are the sensors going to work? What electrical signals are they going to pick up? How is the brain going to assemble the jigsaw puzzle of all that information? What stories is it going to tell? What are you going to experience? This intelligence that's who you really are, who I really am, who all of us really are, has the ability to make changes and to manipulate and to shape and create all of that to do anything that it wants in order for us to have this extraordinary human experience that we're here having. One little shift made by this intelligence to any of this in the chain, the electrical signals, the way the sensors pick them up, what gets passed to the brain, what the brain does with it, other things that can happen on this journey to the deepest level. And everything in your experience changes. And what I discovered is there's a journey that you can take where you connect with this intelligence, who you really are, true creative essence, at a much deeper level. And it's revealed to you how all of this really works down to the deepest, lowest level. And then when that happens, on this particular unique journey that I took and that I help other people to take, true creative essence, who you really are, starts to make these little shifts to how all of this works, so that you start to have a radically different experience of absolutely everything that you have in your life. Whether it's money, it's business, it's career, it's relationships, it's body health and wellness, it's whatever it is. Little shifts get made in this chain of how all of reality is assembled that changes what happens to you every day in radical ways. And it all comes from you taking this journey into truth, traveling what I call the truth path with a capital T, where this connection gets deepened with who you really are, and you take this journey to discover what's really going on, what's really happening, and most importantly, why. Because there's a lot of people that think that the why of it is not relevant. I got problems with relationships, I got problems with money, I got problems with business, I got problems with my body, and why this reality is here and why it's created the way it is really doesn't have anything to do with what I'm struggling with every day. But it has everything to do with what's happening every day. And these little shifts can get made in this chain of how reality gets created that changes everything. And if you'd like to learn more about that journey and how you can begin that journey yourself right now, click on the link that you see around this video and get the guide that I created for you that's specially designed to open a gateway so that you can begin that very journey.